بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لكل جعلنا منكم شرعة ومنهاجا. صدق الله العظيم. الأستاذ المساعد عبد الجليل جاسم هيجل، أستاذ مادة علم اللغة المرحلة الثالثة، قسم الترجمة، كلية الآداب، الجامعة المستنصرية. Well, first of all, I have to say something about the planning. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So every person should have good planning at the very beginning of his work. Here we are going to discuss the syllabus of our topic, General Linguistics, within the book of The Study of Language by George Yall. The book has 20 chapters to be covered within the academic year. The chapters are as follows. Chapter 1, the heading is The Origins of Language. Here we have to cover different theories behind the origins of language, just like the divine source theory, the natural sound source theory, the physical adaptation source theory, and others. While Chapter 2 is going to deal with animals and the human language. In fact, in general, we have to say that there is no language within animals, but there is communication. Only human beings have common languages to communicate by. So, within this chapter, we are going to see the differences between animals' communication and the human language, such as displacement, arbitrariness, productivity, cultural transmission, duality, and others. Chapter 3 is the development of writing. Here we can see different types of writing throughout the development of history, such as pictograms and ideograms, logograms, rebus writing, syllable writing, alphabetic writing, etc., with certain consideration to the difference between written language and spoken language. Within the end of Chapter 3, we have to make the first term exam out of 10 to cover the first 3 chapters, the origins of language, animals and the human language, and the development of writing. Then we come to cover the 2 chapters concerning phonetics and phonology. Within Chapter 4, under the heading of the sounds of language, we have to see vowels, consonants, and everything relative to them. So we have to cover the 3 types of phonetics and phonology: articulatory, acoustic, and auditory. While within the Chapter 5, we have to cover sound patterns of language, just like assimilation, elision, normal speech, and others. Chapter 6, words and word formation processes. Here we are going to see different types of word formation, just like etymology, coinage, borrowing, compounding, blending, clipping, back formation, conversion, acronymy, derivation, etc., with certain tackling of prefixes and suffixes to be discussed here. Chapter 7 is to deal with morphology. Here we are going to discuss what do you mean by free and bound morphemes, base, derivational and inflectional morphemes, and others. Chapter 8, phrases, sentences, and grammar. Here we are going to see what is a phrase, what is a sentence, what is a clause, with certain reference to the three schools of grammar: traditional school of grammar, structural school of grammar, and TGG, transformational generative grammar. With chapter 9 to deal with syntax. Here the main concern is with generative grammar, with reference to Noam Chomsky under his book Syntactic Structures. Here people will know something about deep and surface structure, competence and performance. Chapter 10, a new broad of semantics. To deal with semantics, we have to cover conceptual and associative meaning, semantic features, semantic roles, agent and theme, instrument and experience, location, source and goal, lexical relation, synonyms, antonyms, hyponyms, prototypes, homophones, and homonyms, polysemy, wordplay, metonymy, collocation, and others. Chapter 11, Pragmatics. Within pragmatics, we have to see what do you mean by pragmatics, the study of invisible meaning. Here we can see context, deixis, reference, inference, anaphora, presupposition, speech acts, direct and indirect speech acts, politeness, negative and positive phase. Within the end of chapter 11, we have to cover the second term exam out of 15. So, to cover such chapters, we have to finish within the first term out of 25. Within the end of the first term, we have a mid-year vacation. Then we'll begin with chapter 12, discourse analysis, to cover certain subheadings, just like interpreting discourse, cohesion, cohesive, speech events, conversation analysis, turn-taking, the cooperative principle, hedges, inflectures, background knowledge, schemas, and scripts. Then we move to chapter 13, language and the brain. The main concern here is to cover the two main parts of the brain, Broca's area and Wernicke's area, with reference to aphasia, slips of the tongue, slips of the air, etc. Chapter 14 is to discuss first language acquisition. Our main concern here to speak about acquisition within native language, mother tongue, or first language, with certain reference to the acquisition process, how to develop morphology, syntax, and others. Within the end of chapter 14, we have to make the first exam of the second term out of 10. Then we move to chapter 14 under the heading of first language acquisition, with reference to the difference between language learning and language acquisition, the various stages through which children can acquire language. Chapter 15 is second language acquisition or learning. Here we have to see what is second language learning, the difference between acquisition and learning, effective factors, focus on method, the grammar translation method, the audiolingual method, the communicative approach, transfer, interlanguage, motivation, input and output, communicative competence, applied linguistics, and others. Our main concern here is to discuss the three main methods of teaching English as a foreign language, beginning with grammar translation method, which is in coincidence with traditional school of grammar. Then the audiolingual method with reference to structural school of grammar. Then the communicative approach with reference to transformational generative grammar, which is the latest in the field of methodology. Chapter 16 is gestures and sign languages. We have to see the following subheadings: gestures, types of gestures, types of sign language, and others. Chapter 17, language history and change. Here we have to cover what do you mean by family trees, family connection, cognates, comparative reconstruction, sound reconstruction, and others, with reference to Old English, Middle English, and New English. Chapter 18, language and regional variation. Here we have to discuss what do you mean by standard language, the difference between accent and dialect, dialectology, regional dialects, language and dialect boundaries, the dialect continuum, bilingualism, etc. Within the end of chapter 18, we have to make the second exam of the second term out of 15. So the final will be 25 for the second term, with the 25 of the first term will be 50. Then if we have enough time to cover chapter 19, language and social variations, sociolinguistics, social dialects, education and occupation, and others. While chapter 20, which is the last, to deal with language culture, in general we have to cover this at least within one lecture. We have to deal with the following subheadings: culture, categories, linguistic relativity, Sabi-Whorf hypothesis, which is very, very important within the study of language, and then to cover other aspects and categories relative to culture, because we know that there is a great link, a very close link between language, man, means a human being, and society. So we have to see what is language, what is psycholinguistics, and what is sociolinguistics. In one way or another, we have to cover the main branches of linguistics dealing with language, human being, and society. Thanks a lot for your attention and attendance. I hope you are all well. I wish you success. Thank you very much again and again. Goodbye.